American Vandal is a satirical mockumentary that premiered in 2017, which parodies true crime documentaries such as Making a Murderer. I remember seeing the marketing campaign on its debut, which went like this.
The Vandals spray-painted obscene images on 27 cars.
I'll never understand what's so amusing about penises.
At the time, I dismissed it as a dumb comedy akin to something like MTV's Jackass, a dick joke sketch stretched out into an entire series. Years after the show's conclusion, I finally gave it a chance one day on a whim out of boredom. I'm glad I did because I discovered it wasn't at all what I thought. I went in expecting a mediocre comedy, and what I got was one of the most expertly crafted shows I've ever seen. The direction, performances, dialogue, and pacing are backed up by a tight, smartly written script and great editing. American Vandal is more of a drama than a comedy, with a dry humor reminiscent of British sitcoms. Rather than traditional jokes with setups and punchlines, the humor usually comes from the contrast between the actors' deadpan performances and the absurd situations they find themselves in.
But I discovered one glaring discrepancy no one was even looking at.
Ball hairs.
I went through every single photo, dating back to the 6th grade. You're not gonna find a single hairless nutsack on those whiteboards.
Beyond that, the show manages to transcend beyond being simply a consumable piece of escapist entertainment and becomes something socially relevant, demonstrating how people are molded by the views society has of them. From this point on, there will be spoilers. I hold the show in high regard and recommend you watch it before continuing this video. American Vandal follows a fictional investigation of vandalism at a California high school parking lot in which numerous faculty vehicles are defaced with spray-painted dicks. Dylan Maxwell, a troublemaker notorious for habitually drawing dicks, is the school's only suspect. Close friends Peter and Sam, two amateur film geeks, are unsatisfied with the lack of evidence against Dylan and question whether he's being railroaded due to his reputation alone. They decide to investigate the crime and create an ongoing meta-documentary to chronicle their findings, which they title American Vandal. Peter and Sam's investigation lets the show engage in some fantastic world building as they interview numerous students, faculty, and family members at Hanover High School. We get to see the dynamics between a multitude of various characters and explore their personal lives. The show feels very realistic, and although Peter and Sam are certainly gifted filmmakers, it never feels like what they're doing goes beyond the ability or budget of two amateurs borrowing equipment from their school's AV department. Dylan Maxwell, the eponymous American Vandal, is definitely hard to root for. He's a stereotypical meathead douche bro on the verge of becoming a high school dropout. He's dumb.
They say he deleted the security footage. Dylan's too dumb to delete footage.
Yeah, that's true. I would never think to do that.
Inarticulate. Seems to have little ambition in life and spends his days goofing off making unfunny prank videos with his crew of jackass wannabes.
This is baby farting.
He has a part-time job as a fast food delivery man and frequently eats some of his customers' orders.
There's some perks. You get free fries and shit.
Oh, can I get one?
Nah, if you have too much, they notice.
The show implies he may be the product of a broken home, although presently he has a supportive mother and stepfather. The one bright spot in his life is his girlfriend Mackenzie, with whom he's in a rocky on-again, off-again relationship. Mackenzie is the academic opposite of Dylan, seemingly takes life more seriously, and even has a modest following as a gamer girl streamer, although she's beset by her own family problems. She's with Dylan seemingly due to his simplicity and single-minded devotion to her.
The way Mackenzie makes me feel is just... It's kind of weird to say, I guess, but like I love her.
Peter and Sam spend a lot of time interviewing Dylan and documenting his home life, which eventually reveals the humanity underneath his stolid exterior, both to them and the audience.
Like at first, I didn't even think being expelled was going to be that bad. Like I thought I was going to be able to like just kick it and skate. It's actually kind of lonely.
Peter becomes emotionally invested in the case and wants to see Dylan exonerated, although at multiple points he and Sam seriously question whether or not Dylan is actually guilty.
He's saying he's too dumb to have deleted the footage? That's actually a really good point.
The overarching theme of American Vandal is how individuals become what society sees them as, internalizing the views others have of them and becoming who they are because it's how they're seen. However Dylan became the person he is, the views of those around him perpetuate and reinforce his current self. Apathetic teachers and school faculty see him as a troublemaker, a nuisance, and a lost cause who they're more than happy to be rid of, so they don't bother to thoroughly investigate his case. The other students see him as a joke and automatically assume he's guilty.
Dylan's a burnout loser. Of course he did it.
Dylan Maxwell is the stupidest kid I've ever met.
He's a fucking idiot.
Even Peter and Sam, the two people most invested in Dylan's case other than Dylan himself or his parents, write him off as a simpleton and at times argue that his stupidity is reason both for and against him being the culprit. Eventually, Peter and Sam manage to uncover evidence proving that Dylan could not have been the Vandal. For a brief time, it seems Dylan's prospects are looking up, but his victory is short-lived. In the beginning, Dylan is suspended from school and slowly becomes more detached, isolated, and lonely when stuck at home. Peter and Sam's documentary turns Dylan into a mini-celebrity, but he becomes dejected when he sees interviews of people calling him an imbecile and a loser.
I'm sorry that I suspected you vandalized the cars. I was wrong about that, but I don't believe I was wrong about you.
Their investigation leads to revelations about Dylan's girlfriend, Mackenzie, which leads to them breaking up. With his life spiraling, Dylan vents his frustration by going to the house of the teacher with whom he shares a mutual loathing and vandalizes her driveway, but this time he's caught on video. Peter and Sam are crestfallen to learn that Dylan, the person they fought so hard to exonerate, threw away his second chance and their efforts. The true culprit of the parking lot crime is actually never explicitly revealed, although it's heavily implied to be a certain character. On my initial viewing, I found this conclusion and the lack of closure disappointing and deflating, but now I appreciate the meaning behind it. Peter explains that although he has his suspicions of who the dick drawer is and provides evidence for why he thinks so, after seeing what unsubstantiated assumptions did to Dylan, he believes it would be wrong to accuse them without proof.
They expelled Dylan Maxwell without hard evidence. The system convicted him of a crime he didn't commit. I've seen the way an accusation can ruin someone's life.
The community around him viewed Dylan as a dimwit and a loser, a delinquent, someone to be ignored, ridiculed, and discarded. He internalized those ideas and played the role society gave him.
You were exonerated. How could you throw all of that away?
Oh, what a way. Well, I think I'm just some idiot stoner kid who's not going anywhere. That's what everyone thinks, then maybe that's just who I am. I'm the bad guy. I'm the fuck up.
This sort of behavior is actually backed up by real-life data. In 1968 in Iowa, the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, then unknown, now famous teacher Jane Elliott decided to run an experiment with her third-grade students about discrimination. She divided her all-white class by eye color and told them that brown-eyed people are smarter, more well-behaved, and better overall than blue-eyed people. She had the blue-eyed children wear neckbands to identify them, gave them a shorter recess, and forbade them from using the playground equipment or mingling with the brown-eyed children.
The brown-eyed people get 5 extra minutes of recess. You blue-eyed people are not allowed to be on the playground equipment. You blue-eyed people are not to play with the brown-eyed people. Brown-eyed people are better than blue-eyed people. They're smarter than blue-eyed people.
She would also insult their intelligence and etiquette. As a result, the brown-eyed children became more confident but also more arrogant and mean towards the blue-eyed children. Conversely, those with blue eyes became more timid.
I watched what had been marvelous, cooperative, wonderful, thoughtful children turn into nasty, vicious, discriminating little third graders in a space of 15 minutes.
The next day, Jane Elliott announced to her class that she had lied and that the opposite was actually true, that blue-eyed people were better and the behavior of the children reversed.
When we were down on the bottom, everything bad was happening to us. The way they treated you, you felt like you didn't even want to try to do anything.
Jane Elliott continued to repeat her experiment with different children and eventually adults as well, with similar outcomes. She also recorded her students' test scores and discovered they would radically improve or worsen within a single day's time based on who was in the superior group that day.
I gave little spelling tests, math tests, reading tests. The students' scores go up on the day they're on the top, down on the day they're on the bottom. Stanford University, they said that what's happening here is kids' academic ability is being changed in a 24-hour period, and that isn't possible.
The 1988 movie Stand and Deliver, which is a great movie by the way, definitely watch it, is based on true events surrounding Jaime Escalante, a high school math teacher in 1980s Los Angeles who becomes determined to have his students pass an advanced math exam. The school is underfunded and includes mostly underachieving Hispanic students from poor backgrounds. When Jaime suggests teaching his students calculus, he's thought of as radical and told they should be taught only what they can actually learn.
I want to teach calculus next year.
That's ridiculous. Our kids can't handle calculus. If they try and don't succeed, you'll shatter what little self-confidence they have.
Jaime responds,
Students will rise to the level of expectations.
This turns out to be true as all of his students wind up passing the advanced placement test, but an investigation is triggered due to suspicion of cheating. Jaime believes they're being discriminated against due to their race and poverty.
Do you think the students cheated?
Every night when I go to bed, I watch the television news and I see a lot of people go on trial. But I believe that most people who get caught today are guilty.
The closest parallel to Dylan Maxwell and outward views dictating behavior comes from Angel Guzman, a student who's motivated to learn but who also wants to keep up appearances as a tough gangster type and not be seen as a bookworm, so he's only willing to study in secret.
Books. Can't have the homies see me haul them around.
Wouldn't want anyone to think you're intelligent, huh?
Similarly, many of the students' parents don't believe their kids have future prospects any better than the rest of society does and push back against Jaime's vision.
Anna can be the first one in your family to graduate from high school. Go to college.
Probably get pregnant. She wouldn't finish college. Anita, go help your mom in the kitchen, huh?
It would have been easy for Season 2 of American Vandal to play it safe and simply copy and repeat the same beats of the first. Instead, it's more clever than that, and while it does follow a similar formula, it changes gears and handles different subjects. Peter and Sam recede into the background as characters, with the show focusing on a new cast at St. Bernardine, a private Catholic high school in Washington. An anonymous internet personality, going by the moniker The Turd Burglar, takes credit for an incident known as the Brownout, in which many students were secretly fed laxatives. Kevin McClane, the prime suspect for this season, is more normal than Dylan, but also kind of a weirdo and a bit of a pretentious asshole.
Be sure to suck in quite a bit of air as you taste, so as to create a vapor that reaches all surfaces of your mouth.
People view him as odd, he has few close relationships, and other students throw fruit at him as he proclaims himself to be the fruit ninja. Kevin states that he doesn't feel bullied and enjoys their interactions, though this isn't entirely true. Once again, the show explores how the school staff are self-serving and more interested in expediently finding a culprit rather than the culprit. Their only concerns are maintaining appearances and receiving donations from the students' affluent parents. The series takes things a step further by showing how the police investigators intentionally manipulate and railroad Kevin into giving a false confession.
If I were putting poop in there, which is what you did, where would it?
He confessed to each crime, but he didn't know any of the details.
The Brownout is only one of multiple poop crimes targeted at the school. These incidents are eventually revealed to have been orchestrated by expelled student Grayson Wentz, who now works as a shopping mall booth phone repairman. Grayson was expelled due to making a prank Twitter post on another student's account, which he feels was not only unfair, but unequal since many of St. Bernardine's basketball stars get away with worse.
Do you feel like maybe they treated you differently than Perry Coleman?
Do you know what he did to her? He does like months of shit to this girl. I did like 3 or 4 tweets. I'm expelled.
He harbors an obsessive grudge against the school and its attendees, leading him to catfish and then blackmail a number of people into staging poop crimes. So once again, we have a criminal influenced by social stigma. However, the show explores a different theme by examining the harmful effects of loneliness and how Grayson coerces his victims. It's easy to look at the single otaku with an anime girl dakimakura and judge them as being pathetic. It's similarly easy to judge someone else who gets catfished and expect you would know better, that you would be too smart to fall for it. I try to be open-minded. Put yourself in someone else's shoes. Chronic loneliness isn't just mentally taxing, it also has serious negative physical health effects. These include increased risk of dementia, heart disease, stroke, poor sleep, premature aging, poor decision-making, and many more. Loneliness is so debilitating that products like this are sold.
起きてください。おはよう。
行ってきます。
いってらっしゃい。おかえりなさい。
なんかさ、家で誰かが待ってるっていいもんだな。
It's pointed out multiple times that strong evidence in favor of Kevin being innocent is the fact that he himself shat his pants during the brownout. In the final episode, Kevin is revealed to be among those whom Grayson successfully catfished, except in Kevin's case he was the only one who acted voluntarily and wasn't blackmailed.
She made me feel all these things I had never felt before.
The fact that he went through with the facade anyway and knowingly shat his pants shows how powerful the feeling of isolation is and how desperate it can make people.
Just never really been good at fitting in, and I did everything I could to convince myself that I didn't need people to like me. Sometimes I wonder if they're laughing behind my back like everyone else. I wouldn't even blame them.
American Vandal is more than the series of dumb dick and poop sketches it initially appears to be. It's an expertly crafted, tightly written show and explores meaningful themes.